I thought she was just visiting. Then she moved into my heart. I never imagined that a simple visit could change everything. It started just like any other day, quiet, predictable, and a little lonely. I wasn't expecting anyone. Then, out of the blue, she showed up at our door. My dad said she'd be staying for a few days. Just visiting, he told me. I didn't ask too many questions. She seemed polite, a little shy, and carried just one small bag like she wasn't planning to stay long. I didn't think much of it at the time. At first, we barely spoke. She mostly kept to herself, always looking around like she wasn't sure she belonged. I knew that feeling too well. We were both kind of strangers under the same roof. But slowly, things started to shift. It was the little things, sharing quiet meals, watching the same TV shows, those awkward silences turning into soft conversations. She laughed at my jokes, even the bad ones. And for the first time in a long time, the house didn't feel so cold. She wasn't just visiting. At least, not anymore. Something about the way she listened, how she noticed when I was upset, how she stayed up late when I couldn't sleep, it was different. Like she cared, even though she didn't have to. I started to feel seen. Heard. And for someone who had gotten used to being invisible, that meant everything. But just when I thought maybe this was the start of something real, something permanent, things changed again. Something happened. Something she hadn't told anyone. That's when I realized, maybe I didn't know her at all. And maybe she wasn't just here to visit. Or maybe, she was never supposed to stay. What happened next, I never saw coming. She never really talked about where she came from. Whenever I asked, she'd change the subject or smile in a way that made it clear she didn't want to go there. I figured maybe it was personal, or maybe her past just wasn't something she liked remembering. Still, something always felt a little off. Like she was waiting for something, or someone. My dad didn't say much either. Just that she was a family friend and that she needed a place to stay for a while. But it felt like there was more to the story. He didn't bring it up again, and I didn't want to push. But I started noticing small things. Late-night phone calls she'd end quickly when someone walked in. A letter she left on the kitchen table by mistake, with a name scribbled out so hard the paper was torn. She had this way of always looking over her shoulder, like she expected someone to be watching. Like she was hiding. Even the neighbors started asking questions. Who's the new girl? Is she your cousin? She seems sweet, but a little quiet. I didn't have answers, and honestly, I wasn't sure I wanted them. Because the more time we spent together, the less any of it mattered to me. She was kind, thoughtful, and she made things feel lighter at home. My dad smiled more. I did too. It was like she brought something into the house that had been missing for a long time. Peace, maybe. Or warmth. But that peace started to crack the night I saw her standing outside in the cold, barefoot, just staring at the woods behind the house. I asked if she was okay. She didn't say a word. She just went back inside like nothing happened. That's when I knew, whatever she was carrying, it was heavy. And it wasn't going away. Later that week, I found a small, folded photo tucked inside the book she was reading. It wasn't old, but it was worn, like someone had held it too many times. The girl in the picture looked just like her, but younger. And standing next to her was a man I'd never seen before. His face was scratched out with pen. I didn't ask. But I started paying more attention. Because the feeling in my chest, that something wasn't right, was getting harder to ignore. After that night, I couldn't stop thinking about the photo. Who was the man next to her? Why was his face scratched out like that? I thought about asking, but something told me not to. She had a way of closing off, like a door slowly shutting, whenever anyone got too close to whatever it was she was running from. And it was clear now, she was running from something. Things inside the house started to shift too. My dad grew quieter around her. They barely spoke some days, just exchanged short, polite words like roommates more than anything else. Sometimes, I'd catch him looking at her with this strange expression, part concern, part guilt, like he knew something he wasn't saying. I overheard him on the phone one night, pacing back and forth in the hallway, whispering, "I didn't think she'd come back. Not after everything." That one sentence stuck in my head for days. Then there was my stepsister, Layla. She came home from college a few days later and noticed the tension right away. Layla had always been blunt, never one to tiptoe around questions. "Who's the new mystery girl?" she asked, half joking, but her eyes were sharp. I told her what little I knew, but it wasn't enough for her. She started digging, checking old photos, asking Dad subtle questions, even going through the mailbox like she was looking for a clue. And I knew from experience, when Layla got suspicious, she never let it go. At the same time, things with the girl, her name was Ava, by the way, got even more complicated. She started waking up in the middle of the night, breathing hard, sometimes whispering things under her breath that didn't make sense. I sat with her once, when she couldn't sleep, and asked if she wanted to talk. She just said, "He's still out there," and that was it. No name. No explanation. I started wondering if she was in danger. Or worse, if we were. And if my dad knew more than he let on, why was he keeping it from us? Why now, after all these years, had she shown up? The questions kept piling up. And the strange part was, even with all the tension, all the unknowns, I still felt drawn to her. Like we were connected somehow, though I didn't know why. Or how. The tension inside the house became almost unbearable. Every small sound felt louder. Every glance between people carried more weight. Ava barely spoke now. Her quiet nature turned into complete silence, like she was afraid that even her voice might give something away. And the more silent she got, the more restless Layla became. One night, Layla pulled me aside and told me she found something in Dad's study. It was an old file tucked inside a drawer beneath tax papers, nothing labeled, just pages and photos. She didn't show me everything, just one picture. It was Ava. Younger, maybe 15 or 16, standing in front of a different house. She looked happy. Innocent. Not like the person who sat silently in our living room every night staring into space. But what caught my eye wasn't her. It was the man standing behind her. The same man from the folded photo I found in her book. The one with his face scratched out. "He was arrested," Layla whispered. "I think he was her stepfather." That one sentence turned everything upside down. Ava hadn't said anything about her past, but suddenly, pieces started falling into place, her anxiety, the nightmares, the silence, the fear. Layla tried to confront Dad, but he shut it down. "Don't dig into things you don't understand," he said sharply. That was the first time I saw him raise his voice in years. He was scared too. I could see it in his eyes. Then, 2 nights later, the front porch light burned out. Just like that. I went to change the bulb and noticed something strange, muddy footprints near the front steps, not ours. They led up to the door, and then stopped. No knock. No sound. Just silence. Ava wouldn't come out of her room that night. When I asked if she was okay, she just said, "He's getting closer." Her voice cracked when she said it. Like something inside her was breaking. That same night, we heard something outside. A sound, soft, like gravel crunching. Layla looked out the window and froze. Someone was standing near the tree line. A tall figure, not moving, just watching the house. When we turned on the porch light, he was gone. The next day, Ava's suitcase was packed. She was planning to leave. I asked her why, and she looked at me with the saddest eyes I'd ever seen. "He always finds me," she whispered. "No matter where I go." I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, heart pounding, realizing how deep she'd been hiding all of this. Not just from us, but from herself. Dad finally sat us down that evening, said we needed to talk. His hands were shaking. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. That's when he said something that made my stomach turn. She's not just a guest. She's family. In ways I never told you. Before he could finish, someone knocked on the front door. Once. Then again. Louder. No one moved. Ava's face went pale. She whispered, "It's him." The knock came again, louder this time, more urgent. None of us moved. Even Layla, usually fearless, looked frozen in place. Dad's eyes were locked on the door, his jaw tight, hands clenched at his sides. Ava stood behind the couch, barely breathing. The silence stretched out like a wire pulled too tight, ready to snap. Then the doorknob turned. Slowly. Locked, thank God. Dad finally moved, grabbing the old baseball bat from beside the stairs. I'd never seen him like that, panicked but trying to stay in control. Whoever was outside stopped trying the handle. Instead, we heard a low voice. We couldn't make out the words, but it was enough to send Ava stumbling back. She grabbed my arm and whispered, "He's not supposed to be out. He's not supposed to be here." I asked her what she meant, and that's when she said something none of us were prepared for. He was locked up. For what he did, to me. To others. But someone helped him get out. Her voice cracked. He's been following me ever since. Changing his name. Moving around. Waiting. Layla's face turned white. She stepped back, trying to take it in. Dad didn't say a word. Not yet. But then Ava looked at him, really looked at him, and asked, "You knew, didn't you?" That was the second twist. Right there in the middle of all that fear, another layer peeled back. Dad didn't deny it. He didn't nod either. He just stood there, like he was carrying a weight so heavy he couldn't speak. "I tried to keep it from you," he finally said. "I thought I could protect you if you stayed hidden here. I didn't think he'd find you again." Layla turned on him fast. "You brought her here knowing someone dangerous was after her? You didn't think we had a right to know?" Before he could answer, a crash shattered the tension. The living room window, the one near the side of the house, had just exploded inward. A rock lay on the carpet, glass everywhere. There was a note attached with tape, barely hanging on. I picked it up, hands shaking. The handwriting was uneven, angry. "You can't hide her forever." Ava broke down, sobbing now. Not loud, but the kind that hits deep. Layla ran to comfort her, but her eyes were still on Dad. "What else aren't you telling us?" she asked, her voice sharper now. That's when Ava stood up, wiping her tears, and said something we never expected. "It's not just him. There's someone else. Someone helping him. Someone in this house told him where I was." Everything stopped. A cold silence fell over the room, even heavier than before. We all looked at each other, hearts racing, suspicion creeping in like fog. Ava's eyes met mine for a moment, full of fear, but also something else. Doubt. And just like that, the danger wasn't only outside the house anymore. It might already be inside. The air in the room was thick. No one spoke. Ava's words echoed in my head, "Someone in this house told him where I was." I didn't want to believe it, but her fear was real. And the way she looked around, like she didn't know who to trust anymore. Dad finally broke the silence. "No one in this house would ever do that," he said, but his voice didn't carry the same strength it had before. Layla crossed her arms and stepped back, her eyes darting between all of us. "Then how did he find her?" she asked. "She's been off the grid for years. No phone. No social media. No trace. Someone told him." Ava moved toward the window slowly, careful not to step on the broken glass. She picked up the rock with the note and turned it over in her hand. "This handwriting. I've seen it before, she said softly. But not from him. It's not his. That's when the realization hit her. She turned sharply to Dad. You had letters from my mother. The ones she hid before she died. You showed them to someone, didn't you? Dad looked stunned, like the truth had just hit him too. I showed them to your uncle. He came to visit months ago, said he wanted to help. Ava's face fell. He's not my uncle, she said. He worked with him. He's the one who helped cover everything up. Before we could react, we heard footsteps, fast and heavy, on the porch. Then the door burst open. A man stood in the doorway, eyes wild, breathing hard. It was him. The man from the photo. The man she had run from all these years. Ava froze. Layla screamed. Dad stepped forward with the bat, but the man didn't flinch. Give her to me, he said, voice cold and shaking. She doesn't belong here. What happened next felt like a blur. Dad lunged. The man fought back, knocking the bat away. Layla grabbed Ava, pulling her toward the back door, but the man followed. Then, out of nowhere, Ava did something no one expected. She turned, faced him head-on, and pulled something from her coat pocket. It was a voice recorder. I've been recording everything, she said. Every threat. Every time you followed me. You're done running my life. He froze, just long enough for Dad to tackle him from behind. The police were already on their way, called when the window broke. They arrived minutes later and took him away. We thought it was over. We thought we were safe. But 2 days later, an envelope arrived in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photo of me and Ava, taken from a distance. Someone else had been watching all along. We sat in silence for a long time after that envelope arrived. The photo was grainy, taken from across the street, maybe through a window. It sent a chill through the whole house. Even though the man was in custody, it was clear this wasn't over in the way we'd hoped. Someone else had known where we were. Someone else had been watching. But this time, Ava didn't run. She looked at the photo, took a breath, and calmly said, "We report it. We stay smart." But I'm not living in fear anymore. There was something different in her eyes now, not panic, but strength. Like she'd made peace with her past and was finally ready to stop hiding from it. The police took the photo and opened a new case. They said they'd keep a close eye on the house and suggested Ava stay under protection for a while. But she chose to stay. With us. With family. Because that's what we had become, in the middle of all the chaos, a strange, messy, unexpected family. Layla and Ava grew closer after everything. They were nothing alike, but the experience had built a bond between them that couldn't be broken. Layla even apologized for digging so much in the beginning. Ava just smiled and said, "You helped me see the truth. I needed that." Dad slowly started opening up too. He told us more about Ava's mother, about the guilt he carried for not being there when things first went wrong. About how he tried to make it right in the only way he knew how, by protecting her, even if it meant keeping secrets. It didn't excuse everything, but it helped us understand. As for me, I stopped seeing Ava as just the girl who showed up one day and changed everything. She was more than that. She was someone who had been through more than most people could imagine and still found the strength to fight back. She didn't just move into our house, she moved into our lives. Weeks passed. Then months. The fear faded, slowly. The porch light was fixed. The broken window replaced. The house felt warm again, not because it was safe, but because we were together. Ava's past didn't disappear, but she no longer let it control her. And in some strange way, her story became part of ours. We never got another photo. No more letters. Just the quiet, steady sound of life moving forward. And this time, she stayed.